The story which sets the stage for Sins of a Solar Empire as well as its new sequel begins 10,000 years ago, far from any human worlds and close to the galactic core, where the empire of the aliens known as the Vasari comes to an abrupt and unexpected end. With their worlds destroyed and their species all but wiped out, the survivors begin a desperate race to outrun their past in a mass exodus fleet. This event would forever scar the Vasari psyche and make these alien taskmasters even more cruel and unforgiving in their future conquests. The Great Schism saw the end of human civilization in the galaxy and the start of a long dark age. During this period, worlds were ravaged, technologies lost and history forgotten. With each planet isolated, humans were left to recover on their own with the scars of racial memory. What occurred during this period would pass into legend and then into total obscurity. The trade order was formed by a group of economically driven settlers. Each planet in the trade order would operate as its own sovereign entity, but with free trade across member worlds. Despite the large amount of autonomy allowed in forms of government and culture, a strict set of laws were enforced across members against unnatural augmentation and other social as well as biological taboos. During one of the trade orders' many expansionary missions, emissaries found a single world orbiting a giant red star on the periphery of what was to become trader space. The people of that desert planet were eventually found to be practicing both scientific and social behaviors that broke numerous trade order taboos, those which have long since become akin to laws. Shocked and disturbed, the trade worlds immediately exiled this entire population far outside the territory they were claiming as their own. For nearly a millennium, the trade order would experience widespread growth and peace, fueled by resources and riches extracted from many worlds and their populations. With only the usual problems of piracy and some more radical members of the order, this golden period would be known as the Age of Prosperity. The trade worlds prospered in this era of lucrative trade and relative peace. Stories of their ancestors' wars had long since passed into the depths of the oldest archives. The methods and machines by which they conducted these affairs long since corroded and disassembled. Consequently, when the Vasari Exodus fleet arrived, the outlying trader worlds paid dearly. In a battle for survival, they found a new impetus to rediscover the ways of their savage past. With the Vasari Exodus fleet easily defeating trade orders, ships and fleets that were only ever meant to combat piracy, the member worlds decided to take drastic action. Agreeing to trade in some of their autonomy for new ship designs and weapons to fight the war, they collectively transformed into the Trader Emergency Coalition and coordinate defenses to drive back the Vasari. As the one fallen empire and the other rising one battle for their very survival, the exiles return. These transformed people called themselves the Advent. With a vast fleet of advanced warships and mysterious weapons, they bring a growing number of worlds under their control. The already struggling Trader Emergency Coalition finds itself caught in a two-front war that appears utterly hopeless. After nearly 15 years, the war which has ravaged across dozens of star systems neared a standstill. The great fleets of the Trader Emergency Coalition, the Vasari Exodus fleet, and the Advent approached a stalemate. With the fronts temporarily stabilized, each race took the time to regroup and entrench. Great defensive battle stations were deployed and critical choke points fortified, while all sides prepared for an all-out offensive. With more than a quarter century of constant warfare behind them, the factions began to look for alternative solutions to their conflict. Many in the Trader Emergency Coalition feared that their people were losing their identity, while others felt their leaders failed them after promising safety that wasn't delivered. Some members of the Advent started to wonder if their course of vengeance was the right one to follow, while the Vasari simply wanted to escape the region with as many resources as possible. Such conditions led to opening of talks between the three major races for the first time, in the hopes that their envoys would finally bring peace. While many were hopeful that diplomacy would finally end the war, differing opinions on what should be done, along with depleted power of the controlling factions, led to a splintering of the groups involved. The loyalist members of the Trader Emergency Coalition adopted a policy of isolation, focusing on enhanced defenses to ride out the rest of the war. Those who rebelled against the coalition took on a purely militant view, coming to the opinion that the only way to bring peace is by ultimately crushing all who oppose them, especially the aliens. The Advent fared no better, as for the first time in their history a schism in the Unity appeared. The Loyalists seek to continue their policy of revenge against the traitors and to assimilate all others to the Unity's influence. However, others among the Advent suspect that a corrupting influence from within has diverted the Unity from its proper destiny. The divide created in the Vasari Exodus fleet is less pronounced, but just as severe to their people. With the Vasari now practically frantic to move on to new space, their loyalist faction abandons cooperation and decides to take the resources they need by any means necessary. Having accepted the need to work together, the rebel faction feels that their best chance for survival is to work with other races and bring them along when they flee the approaching enemy. Now is a time of many unknowns, as both the internal and external strife between the races seems to be stuck in a cycle of reprisals. Despite constant infighting, the Vasari are desperate to move on from this region of the galaxy and suffer from a growing dread. Whatever the future holds, time is running out. And that is the timeline so far. Sins of a Solar Empire lore has been refined and expanded on by the developers at Ironclad Games, but we all hope to finally learn the true nature of the threat which the Vasari are so keen on staying one step ahead of, be that in a future expansion or some other form of content. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!